John and JD and I, we have like a group chat that's been going on for hell, I think a couple of
Couple
years now at
years.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a
And
while.
the theme of that is us been kind of like, it seems like the direction of AEW right now is not doing well. And in fact, they're heading in the wrong direction completely. And we thought maybe it was just us three that were noticing that. But if you listen to the flagship, Joe and Rich have been picking up on that. Dave and Brian have been really critical on Wrestling Observer Radio. So a lot of people have been kind of noticing that the direction of AEW heading into Double or Nothing just hasn't been good. The numbers are reflecting that. Everything's reflecting that. Things just aren't hitting. Things are not working. The storylines, some of them just don't make any sense. They have weak challengers for the titles. Too many titles at that. There's just so much going on in AEW. We thought, well, hell, what better way to talk about this situation than to bring on Mr. John Muse, Booker extraordinaire. So, John, we really do thank you for being here, man.
Oh, again, thank you for asking. I appreciate it. I know it's sometimes hard to grab me on things and all that. So I do appreciate the patience there. And I'm excited. I think we all agree. We all love AEW, right? We want it to succeed. We need AEW. The business needs AEW. And that's kind of what drives some of the frustration, I think. We all want it to be great. And whenever we start feeling, you know what, it's a little moving away from what AEW is or what we think it is or feel, we start getting bothered by that. And I think that's what's driving a lot of things lately.
Yeah, absolutely. And JD actually put out a tweet that I think got a lot of play. I actually trolled his tweet.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Quite great.
Yeah, he said it's okay to criticize AEW, and he's absolutely right, but some people just don't want to hear it. And you guys got to understand where I come from. My friend BQ was saying this on his podcast. I have a military background, so giving critical feedback is just kind of part of our culture. It's part of our nature. But I don't like to just criticize. And when I tell people to give me feedback, I never say don't. I always say don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. Mm-hmm. And that's why having a guy like John Muse on, who's got ideas that about how there's a better way to do things. So John, since we got you here, the main storyline that's been driving AEW since February, it has been the evil EVPs. EVPs have turned heel. They have taken over the company. They did the Meltzer driver to one Tony Khan. Although he did give me a great thumbnail pick, which I used a lot and got a lot of views. So thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. But they did the Meltzer driver. And now they got the big match coming up at Double or Nothing. AEW versus the EVPs, even though everybody there works for AEW. It just seems like that storyline is not working, man. So, John, what are your overall thoughts on the storyline? Where did they go wrong and how could they do it better?
All right. Well, first off, if you went back to when AEW was formed and said, okay, look, write down things that you hate about WWE and why we need another company who won't be WWE, what do you think one of the things would be?
The heel authority figure.
Yes. Okay. So I think that's the first point that we need to think about is, AEW is supposed to be the alternative. And I get it that things change over time and every product changes over time. But at the end of the day, we don't want WWE. And that's one of the things that WWE was kind of known for and really drove. So I think that may be part of what's going on and why maybe it isn't catching. See, to me, I'm okay with the Bucks. I like the Bucks. They're probably the best tag team of all time, right? So I can enjoy them because they're going to go out and have good matches and they're going to be good with what they do. But again, it's not about me. It's about what the mass audience wants. So I think the problem there is that you've got evil authority figures. People may not be really into something like that. And if you look back over the last few years, one of the common themes with AEW has been a lot of internal discourse, right? Just people that, we had the Punk drama and the EVP stuff, which they're attached to, right? Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of that. And I don't think people want to see the infighting. They want to see things going forward, not looking back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think I see there, and I wonder if that might be causing some of the problems. People, and if you look at the message, and JD can probably talk about this, especially as a real writer. I just book some ideas and throw some things around, but from a writer perspective, what is the Bucks' goal? What do they want? Why do they want to do whatever it is they're doing? what is the real issue? Do we want the Bucks and Tony to be feuding at this point? They're supposed to be one of the founding members, things like that, which was supposed to be a united group to bring better wrestling than what we were getting. So what is the Bucks message in this? What do they want? What do we really, has this been established?
No, that's the problem. Is like when you have characters, protagonists, antagonists, you need to have a goal. Like, right, the number one objective of a story is, before you have anything, everyone talks about storytelling and wrestling. Story. A story at its core, this isn't JD Oliva, this is Robert McKee saying this, is you have a character that has a goal, right? And in their way is something is stopping them from achieving that goal. Could be man, could be nature, could be forces beyond, whatever. It's just there's something in the way, which is why pro wrestling at its core should work perfectly with story. But we have these characters of the Young Bucks. What is their goal? To run AEW? Like, haven't they been doing that for, like, it's never been established? That's a big part of the problem, is like very rarely do we have people coming out here and establishing their goals, right? John Moxley does a pretty good job at every time he gets the mic, but not everyone does. I think that's a big problem right now with the Bucks specifically, is we don't know what their goal is. It's muddled right now.
Right. And if you think about it this way too, it's like, if you don't really establish the goal, what is the viewer going to do? They're going to try to figure out what they think the goal is. And it's going to be different amongst different people, right? Everybody's not going to just land on the same thing unless it's been clearly established. So if you think about it from the Bucks perspective, okay, they want it to be like it used to be. Okay, well, isn't one of the complaints that some viewers have is that AEW isn't what it used to be? Which would make the Bucks what? What would that make the Bucks if they want it to be what it used to be and fans are like, I want it to be like it used to be? That makes the Bucks the good guys.
Correct.
So then what is AEW then? The heels.
The heel.
All right.
Yep.
So we have a mixed dynamic, right? And people are going to choose, or people are going to kind of pick a side, or, but they won't want to pick the side of the Bucks necessarily, because the Bucks are what? They're kind of being dicks. But the Bucks have the right goal to some people. And it's very muddled. And it's hard when you have that situation. It's very hard, especially if it's something that people are like, you know what? We got rid of Punk. They fired Punk for the video that they showed and all this other stuff, which we'll leave it to whoever to debate whether that was a good idea or not. But the whole point is, we saw that, and they fired Punk over it. So the Bucks are supposed to be the good guys. Then but they're the bad guys. So what are we supposed to do? Who are we supposed to support? Because if you support the Bucks, AEW's the heel. And it's just very mixed. And you got to establish a goal. And then you've got to kind of stick along. Whatever goal you establish, that has to be their driving force. They have to have their obstacles. The good guys have to have the obstacle, which is the Bucks, if you want to establish it properly. I mean, right, JD? I mean, isn't that the core of what what we need to establish?
Well, I think that's our problem too, is we have our antagonists set, but who is the protagonist? Who drives this company right now? Shouldn't it be Swerve Strickland? He's the champion.
Well, yeah, and that could go back to your other point too of, we've got to establish somebody, because it's not Tony. It's not like the Bucks are going to fight Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be who. And if it's, Kenny's on the shelf for a little while getting healed up, and hopefully that goes really well and really fast, because we need Kenny Omega, folks. You've got that. So who should it be? And you want it to be what? People of a high enough stature, because this is supposed to be an important matter.
I think that's the problem right now, is we're emulating Austin McMahon, right? Like, that's clear. Anytime you do heel authority figure versus babyface story, that's what you're doing. You're aping Austin McMahon. Very clearly, we knew who the antagonist and who the protagonist was in that dynamic, right? Steve Austin was the story driver of that particular era. And again, I would love to just take the Attitude Era, put it on a shelf, and just say that's that and never touch it again. But we can't. We're incapable of doing that. Right.
We even brought the Brood back this week. We even brought Bloodbath back.
Let's not get started on that. But Bloodbath is a pressure washer. It almost knocked Malachi unconscious. Like,
yeah, they literally shot it down on him.
Yeah, they did. They whooped his ass with that thing. Boy, you talk about Malachi having a hard time getting down on the mat for something. He got down on the mat for that Bloodbath. I'll tell you that right now. Most selling he's done in months. Like that's the problem. Is like who are they? Like who is the driver right now? Like, who is the guy that we're supposed to rally around with this whole thing? I don't know. Bryan Danielson fights against being the top guy. He refuses to do it. So who is it? Who's the guy? It should be Swerve, but it's not.
Yeah,
And if it's not
Swerve's
Swerve,
involved in the storyline. Swerve's in the storyline, but he's too focused on Christian because for whatever reason, the Young Bucks decided to put Christian in that spot instead of their ally Jack Perry, which in storyline would actually make more sense, but it'd be like a lower marquee match if they did Jack Perry. Not that Christian is much better. Yeah, they could have done Okada.
Yeah. See, you know, and I mean, they may build into Swerve, and they're probably going to pull Swerve in at some point, but they had the opportunity to do that when they had that huge lead in from the NBA on the NFL draft weekend when they got all that little mainstream publicity. They could have pulled Swerve in right there when they would have had that audience and done something hot to start that show, and then you pull all of that together, all the work for the mainstream stuff, the guy you want to build around right now and Swerve. It could have been done then, but we didn't do it. And I mean, it's a choice. You know, it's a choice that they made. But you know, it's just kind of you kind of wonder, and that's not to take away from like FTR or obviously Danielson because they're great. It's just that they're not a focal point for something that's supposed to be as important as the company, which is what that's supposed to represent.
Yeah, I think they've been kind of just waiting for Adam Page to get back, and then that's when they're finally going to bring Swerve into this picture because they want to do another Page and Swerve match. But it just whatever he's got going on in his life, he just can't come back. So in the meantime, it's kind of like he's in this lame duck program with Christian Cage, who everybody loves. Christian Cage is one of the greatest ever, but as far as a marquee, he doesn't have that marquee name to be driving the main event of a pay-per-view. You know.
Right. Yeah. Christian, side note on Christian, because he's so tremendous. One of the scrums that I sat in for, he came in and that was one of the earliest ones that he had done in character, and highlight of the day, him walking in and asking everybody how their fathers were doing. And then he sat there during the whole thing, and you didn't always see this because, you know, sometimes it focused on Tony or the cameras or whatever, but Christian worked the whole room. He would stare right through you, and he would go person to person doing that the whole time. It was tremendous. Side note.
Great.
Anyway, yeah, he's great.
Well, he's great. But what did they do to build this? Like nothing. And again, since getting here, it's been all right. It's probably been my favorite stuff on the TV is the Christian Swerve stuff lately.
Yeah.
But like, it's how we got here. I mean, like, they don't want to do I don't know if you heard Joe, our boss, Joe Lanza's Patreon this morning, but I mean, like, he called him lazy, and I don't think he's wrong. Called it a lazy sports entertainment show, and I don't think he's wrong.
No, I mean, there's things that they could have done. I mean, if you know Christian is going to be your guy, you could have started doing something a little sooner. If he's not available for whatever reason, then, you know, is Nick Wayne not available? Is Killswitch not available? You could have started laying some seeds so then at least the choice makes sense. Because again, the Bucks picked the challenger. Why would they pick Christian and not Jack or not Okada or somebody else of somebody important that hadn't recently just lost? You know, you could have tried to build Christian up a little bit more or done something. There's just options, but I mean, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes either. So it's hard to criticize some things, but yeah, it's questionable the way it went.